New York Times with an interesting piece. Should Biden run in 2024? Democratic whispers of no start to rise. So what you're about to see in this article is the Democrats have decided collectively, the party officials, the leaders in the Democratic Party, the establishment, they've decided, pull the chute, we're done with Biden. We're done. So that's why you start to see all these little articles being planted where they start to question, oh, maybe he's too old, maybe he's not sharp mentally anymore, I don't think he could do it. And this is an indication that the moneyed interests and the powers that be are going, can't be him. Which is interesting because it's the first time since Bernie was still in the race against Biden that this has actually happened. So this is big. This is a big deal. They say in interviews, dozens of frustrated Democratic officials, members of Congress, and voters expressed doubts about the president's ability to rescue his reeling party and take the fight to Republicans. Midway through the 2022 primary season, many Democratic lawmakers and party officials are venting their frustrations with President Biden's struggle to advance the bulk of his agenda, doubting his ability to rescue the party from a predicted midterm trouncing, and increasingly viewing him as an anchor that should be cut loose in 2024. As the challenges facing the nation mount and fatigued base voters show low enthusiasm, Democrats in union meetings, the back rooms of Capitol Hill, and party gatherings from coast to coast are quietly worrying about Mr. Biden's leadership, his age, and his capability to take the fight to former President Donald J. Trump a second time. Interviews with nearly 50 Democratic officials, from county leaders to members of Congress, as well as with disappointed voters who backed Mr. Biden in 2020, reveal a party alarmed about Republicans' rising strength and extraordinarily pessimistic about an immediate path forward. Quote, to say our country was on the right track would flagrantly depart from reality, said Steve Simeonitis, a Democratic National Committee member from Miami. Mr. Biden, he said, should announce his intent not to seek re-election in 24 right after the midterms. I mean, they're calling on him to be like, I'm done. Democrats' concerns come as the opening hearing of the House committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol made clear the stakes of a 2024 presidential election in which Mr. Trump, whose lies fueled a riot that disrupted the peaceful transfer of power, may well seek to return to the White House. For Mr. Biden and his party, the hearing's vivid reminder of the Trump-inspired mob violence represents perhaps the last best chance before the midterms to break through with persuadable swing voters who have been more focused on inflation and gas prices. Now let me pause there for a second. Herein lies the problem with the Democratic Party and with Joe Biden. They're too reliant on Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad. Yeah, we get it. He lost. We get it. He's bad. What else you got for me? Because you can't run in 2034 on Donald Trump bad. What's your actual vision? And that's the problem. He doesn't have a vision for the country. And even though I think these January 6th committee hearings are interesting and they're damning, they're also, just like they say in the article, people are thinking about inflation. They're thinking about gas prices. They're thinking about paying the bills. They're thinking about, whatever. The war in Ukraine, where we're this close to war with Russia. There are real problems in the world that are very apparent and happening right now. Was it an insurrection? Absolutely. Was it a coup attempt? Absolutely. Was it a riot? Absolutely. Thankfully, we got through it. And they did transfer the power. Okay. It's not to downplay it or anything like that. It's just to say you have to address the material concerns people have right now. So the idea that, maybe these hearings will save us. Well, people thought, hey, maybe the Roe versus Wade overturning by the Supreme Court will save the Democrats. Ultimately, if people are economically squeezed, they will pick change over not change. And the Democrats are in power right now. They have the presidency, they have the House of Representatives, they have the Senate, and they're not delivering nearly enough. So it's probably going to be a wave election for the Republicans, even with overturning of Roe versus Wade, and even with the January 6th committee hearing. And they're not really coming to grips with that. Let's see, where were we? If the party cannot, I'm right here. If the party cannot, it may miss its final opportunity to hold Mr. Trump accountable as Mr. Biden faces a tumultuous 2 years of Republican-led House obstructing and investigating him. By the way, he can't even get anything done with the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And so now you're talking about Republicans taking over. There's going to be less than nothing that gets done. Most top elected Democrats were reluctant to speak on the record about Mr. Biden's future, and no one interviewed expressed any ill will toward Mr. Biden, to whom they are universally grateful for ousting Mr. Trump from office. I love this. See, what these guys are trying to do is pin all the blame on Biden. Now, understand, a lot of the blame goes to Biden. But you know who else is responsible? Every snake in this article who's pointing the finger at Biden. Because they all had the wrong theory of change. They're all corporate Democrats. And so these are the same people who smear, the Bernie wing of the party, smear lefties, and say they're the problems. Oh, defund the police was the problem. That's why we lost. And they don't understand, no, you are the problem. The problem was you needed hardball tactics and you needed a commitment to get Build Back Better done and those various provisions done. And you needed to fight for it. And none of them did. And now they're turning around saying, oh, it's all Biden and it's because he's old. No, that's not true. But the repeated failures of his administration to pass big-ticket legislation on signature Democratic issues, as well as his halting efforts to use the bully pulpit of the White House to move public opinion, have left the president with sagging approval ratings and a party that, as much as anything, seems to feel sorry for him. That has left Democratic leaders struggling to explain away a series of calamities for the party that all seem beyond Mr. Biden's control. Inflation rates unseen for decades, surging gas prices, a lingering pandemic, a spate of mass shootings, a Supreme Court poised to end the federal right to an abortion, and key congressional Democrats' refusal to muscle through the president's Build Back Better agenda or an expansion of voting rights. Okay, we could stop here, but look, the bottom line is the entire Democratic political establishment is now turning on Joe Biden, and they're actively looking for somebody to take his place. The problem here is what? They're going to settle on Kamala Harris or Mayor Pete or some other absolute charlatan who's just as bad, if not worse, than Joe Biden. And so these people are looking for solutions. There are no solutions because all of you are the problem. You're all the problem. And the only way that you're going to have a Democratic Party worth a damn is if it's taken over by actual lefties, if it's taken over by the Bernie Sanders types, and if they're not only uncorrupted, but totally unapologetic and crusading for the right policies. And we are so far from that being the reality right now that it's laughable. So they're going to keep, in other words, they're going to keep trying to move the deck chairs around on the Titanic, thinking that'll be the systemic change that's needed in order for the Democrats to hold power and win. And it's nonsense. Look, you have the power right now. You can get done anything you want to get done. Biden could take out his executive order pen, eliminate student loan debt, legalize marijuana, free all the nonviolent drug offenders. He has the ability to lower prescription drug prices right now. He has the ability to do it, the authority to do it. He's choosing not to do it. So that's on him, and that's on all the people around him who tell him, do less because less is more. Don't overreach, don't go too far. That's why we're unpopular. Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. But the fact that the entire Democratic establishment is now throwing him under the bus is a sign that the party in general is in massive disarray. And even with the political gifts of Roe versus Wade and the January 6th committee hearing, they're still going to blow it. But this is something here, because the fact that this is in a major publication shows they're all done with Biden. And they're looking for the exit door, and that's clear. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.